The sheriff was right there first. I said, looky here. Here's my Bible. Here's my journal. They finally put me to the vice president of the bank because I was there to convince them that I'm going to be worth $1 million by the time I'm 25 years old. This tibia bone was the only bone that wasn't broken below my waist. I found myself on this path.
Okay.
And I knew right away I didn't have gravity. The gates were wide open and there were people assembling.
Okay, welcome back to Testimonies Unfolded, where we bring stories of people who have witnessed the amazing power of God working in their life. Today we're here talking with Loren Miller. I'm very excited to be with him. Loren has had 29 surgeries in the past 7 years, and today he's going to share his story, including his experience of seeing the gates of heaven. Loren, welcome.
Thank you. It's a real privilege. I just love when God arranges intersections that will encourage other people to have faith.
Amen.
It's not because we're smart, it's probably because we're dumb. But faith is such a big piece of believing that God is real and it's not of ourselves, but He brings the intersections in our life that keep us moving and moving and moving forward.
Amen.
And
yeah, well, good to have you here, Loren. Why don't you just kick it off with giving us a glimpse into your upbringing, what kind of family you were born and raised in, and what that looked like?
well, I'm happy to talk about that. Family is so important. I was born in an old order Amish family in Hutchinson, Kansas.
Okay.
My parents, as well as about 75% of the 3 Amish districts, were converted during the late 50s and early 60s. That was 1950s and 60s.
Okay.
So I was 2 years old, and so the church that evolved there was the Beachy Amish group of people that had a very spiritual, discerning, and often a very mission-focused. I grew up in that teaching environment.
Okay.
But probably when I think of my upbringing, the most significant thing that I remember is a 4 or 5-year-old boy getting up during the middle of the night, going to the bathroom. You know, you have to sometimes do that, little boys do.
Yeah.
When you eat too much watermelon in the night. And so but I was perplexed because my mother was sitting in a little corner at her sewing machine, but she wasn't sewing. She had her English and German Bible open, and I could see her mouth moving, and then I said, Mom, what are you doing? It's night, like you should be sleeping.
Yeah.
My thought, oh, she said, Loren, I have 5 boys to raise for the Lord, and I don't know how to do that. So I read the book, and the Bible, and I read and I pray.
In German?
Well, she had the English. It was a dual. German on one page, English on the other page. That's how they transitioned. And she said, so I read and I pray that God would show us the way. And that just left such an indelible impression. My grandmother was an invalid for 17 years, but we would always know when we go to visit her that she was praying for her grandchildren. So I say that because we are not people that have the ability of ourself, but it's always other people that we learn to honor and respect.
So how did it go from there, your journey to growing up and finding Christ?
Well, I responded to a revival meeting when I was only 10 years old, which was pretty young.
And this is a revival meeting among the Amish?
Well, it was among the Beachy Amish at that point when they gravitated to that expression. And I was baptized when I was 11, and it wasn't because others around me I was the youngest in the class. Let's say it that way.
Okay.
It wasn't a pure thing. I
You
felt
simply wanted to.
It
felt.
was very real and significant for me. I took years. I always wanted to live to where people in the church would say, "He's on the straight and narrow."
Oh,
I knew how to wear the white shirt on Sunday,
oh yeah.
and in our youth group, if somebody would wear the blue one, I said, "You're so dumb. You should at least wear the white one, so they wouldn't." They're always on you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but
like abiding by
I
the
just
rules.
went on a search in my late teens. Actually, when I was 20 and 21 years old, is like, there's got to be more than just doing certain things or having certain values.
So at this point, you weren't married yet?
No, I wasn't married until I was 28. That's
Oh.
a lot of things happened until that point.
So 20, 21?
So then that's when I was, is God real? You know, it's got to be more than just doing things the right way.
Mm-hmm.
There's not life in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I get it, but there has to be more.
Yeah.
And so the Lord allowed that I met a brother at an airport where we argued the scripture all night long. We met about 6:30 in the evening. At 5 o'clock the next morning, David Detweiler from Hartville, Ohio, finally gets up. I met at that airport in New York and said, "Loren, you don't have to believe a word I've said, but you've got to believe this book." He had the Bible with him.
Bible. Wow.
And that just drove me crazy.
Wow.
Because as a 19-year-old boy, I went to the bank. They finally put me to the vice president of the bank because I was there to convince them that I'm going to be worth $1 million by the time I'm 25 years old. Though this is when money was worth something yet. And so I convinced a 3-phase plan, and I walked out of the bank with $50,000 cash.
Wow.
Unsecured, because I only had a $10 bicycle is how I would get around in the community. But when I was 20, I started seeing this is not the answer. Money's not the answer. And so I started, when I had this argument, well, that guy drove me crazy. So I determined I'm going to read the New Testament every month. This was in October, November, December of 1977. I said, I'm going to read. I'm now 21 years old. I'm going to read the New Testament every month so I can prove this Dave guy that he's wrong.
Oh, wow.
That I can be in business and I can give my money. My goal was to support every mission and missionary in Central and South America.
So your goal was to raise money, raise funds, and
I was to make money.
Make money and give it.
And then Dave's goal that night in the argument was that God doesn't want my money; He wants me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I
see,
that's making sense.
So he created this upside down world. Well, I couldn't prove him wrong by reading the New Testament 3 times. So in January of 1978, I said, I got the idea. I'm going to memorize a chapter in the Bible every week. And maybe I can assimilate God in my system, exact thoughts. And so I started to memorize. When February came around, I distinctly remember that what if I get sick and I'm not well enough to memorize my chapter? I'd better memorize 2 chapters this week. And I memorized 2 chapters that week, and I memorized 2 chapters the next week.
Wow.
So I was always 2 chapters ahead every week.
Wow.
And now it was December the 9th of 1978. I had memorized 52 chapters in the year.
Wow.
And I had the youth group boy that was on the edge with the blue shirt that I was talking about.
Yeah.
He had gone to the local junior college and he got involved in a Bible study group, and Mark was starting to change.
Oh.
And he kept inviting me. You got to come to. Well, I'm not going to do something like that. But then my parents, because I didn't want to explain to my parents that I went to Hutchinson to be in a Bible study group, so they went away for the weekend. Mark, Saturday morning, I called him and said, I'm coming tonight. Where do I go? He tells they meet in the basement of this church. So I'm there. Well, I intentionally got there a little bit late. And so they were about 15 young people were sitting in a circle. And there was a local pastor that was leading the Bible study. And when they came, they moved their chairs apart, so I could sit in the circle. Oh, no, not Loren. I pulled the chair out from that circle and sat behind him because, exact thought coming, I did not want to adulterate myself with them.
So you were curious, but you didn't...
I just wanted to satisfy Mark that this is not for me and this is not the right way to go. This is outside the church.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Well, I had one problem. One of the young damsels there was somebody I had a little bit of an eye on. She's from a different church, and she happened to be in that circle that day. But what happened in that circle is that when I had 2 years of public high school, and when I was a freshman, Dave and Janice, they were boyfriend, girlfriend, but they were known to be the town drunks and live life accordingly. They were in that circle that night, and they were sharing their testimony and their changed life and how the Lord, and I was just like, whoa, this is, something happened here.
Yeah.
Well, then they started to share, and there was another student, former classmate that I knew there from the public school, and she said, well, I'm just struggling. I'm just having, and then the girl right beside her said, well, just today the Lord gave me this verse, and this is just for you. And all of a sudden I started to hear these people had, they had a relationship that was personal, and I didn't have it.
Yeah.
And then, does God do these things? So the girl that I had a little bit of a hankering toward came and said, oh, how are you doing? And we started to visit a little bit. And then the janitor came and wanted to close the building, so we went out, sat in the car. It's a winter night. And I told her my search, reading the scriptures, memorizing, talking to Ann Kimmel. And I'm not finding the answer. And then she says, well, why don't you just pray and tell God exactly what you've told me? And I had this little moment of conflict. I didn't know how to pray for one thing, but if she was suggesting, I didn't want, how was I going to explain, if I had a little bit of interest, how was I going to explain that I don't? And Josh,
So praying like that, just simply praying to God, was not a part of your life at that point.
Well, not in a way except thee and thou style.
Oh, yeah.
If you got it.
Yeah. Not a personal connection.
It was that I know God exists,
Yeah.
but he's
just.
But you don't touch. He's this awesome, big, and I believed everything about what people said, but I didn't have a relationship.
Yeah.
And that night I prayed in that car. And it was just like the whole car light lit up. And everything changed my life. On a Monday morning, I went to the vice president of the bank. And I told him that everything changed. And that I'm losing my interest. That was a main pivotal thing. Then that led me, I just began to be saturated. I would get cassette tapes. You know what a cassette tape is?
Yeah.
Well, we had these little pocket tape recorders that I could take along on the truck with me when we'd make deliveries, and I would listen to the sermons that other preachers were preaching, and that's where the story that I've shared with you before about the truck fire where the Bible didn't burn. That's how that was. But that's where I discovered that God is real, because I was praying and praying and praying, God, if this is real, if you are real, then keep my Bible and keep my journal in that burning inferno. And when there was nothing else left in that truck except ashes and metal, there was my Bible on the seat.
Wow.
The top,
Wow.
I had a journal. I wrote letters to God every day. The top cover was burned off the journal, but none of the pages.
No way.
How is that even
possible?
Can you explain that?
I cannot.
That just all of a sudden,
that's God.
I couldn't get done talking about God. Well, I grabbed that Bible. The fireman had taken a crowbar. No, this was a fire. Maybe I could tell a little bit of the story then, but I was traveling down the interstate and I was taking off the first exit to make a delivery to a local farm with the seed that I was taking. And as I came up to the stop sign, the first car slowed down. They were waving, and I didn't pay attention. But the next guy came along and he cried, "Fire! Fire!" And then I looked in the back window of my truck, and all I could see was flames.
No way.
I had 2 gasoline tanks, and I just filled them about 30 miles before that. And it scared me.
Yeah.
I jumped out. I kicked the gallon jug of water that I had on the floorboard with me, and it rolled out into the ditch, across the road, out into the ditch. And I did a 50-yard dash faster than I still hold the school record for 50-yard dashes, but that one was faster. And when I got around, I ran out and I turned around, and the first tank exploded, and the front end of that truck lifted about 3 or 4 feet off the ground, and it blew out every window in the cab.
Wow.
I was out of there for 5 seconds.
Wow. Wow.
And then that thing burned. And it took the fire people 25 minutes to extinguish the fire. When I'm walking back, the fire chief comes and he takes a crowbar to open the door, and he looked inside and he slammed it shut. Then he waved for me to come down, and I already had a conversation with the sheriff. When I was pacing up away from that fire, when I was praying, God, keep my Bible, keep my journal. And he came, and the sheriff said, "Son, is that your truck?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I thought immediately. I said, "Sir, go tell the fire, the chief that to keep the middle of that seat, because that's where I have my prized possessions." I didn't tell him what it was. I said, "That's where my prized possessions are." And then he just
said, like the center console.
Yeah. And he said, "Son, there's nothing going to be left in that burning inferno." So the fire chief comes after they had cooled down the truck. He used a crowbar to open the door. Then I saw him he looked in, then he slammed the door shut. Then he waved for me to come. And I went down and I said, "Well, can I look in?" "Well, yeah, it's your truck." So I opened the door, and then it was a knife to the heart, because there was nothing left. All I saw was springs of the seat. I had a brand new Samsonite suitcase. I saw a piece of the suitcase about this big.
Wow.
The tape recorder I had actually melted. It was about the size of a golf ball. It just looked like a golf ball.
Wow.
And there was just ashes. And I began to sweep the ashes away from the seat when I saw my Bible and my journal, just like I said. And I grabbed that, Josh, and I backed out of that truck.
Wow.
And it was like, hallelujah. And the sheriff was right there first. I said, looky here. Here's my Bible. Here's my journal. Here it is, right here. You know, it's just like, and pretty soon there was a whole crowd of people that wanted to see this thing.
No way.
But what cemented in me was that God is real.
Yeah. Wow.
And so it
and
became,
how old were you at this time?
I was 22. 2.
And you had given your life to you had that prayer in the car.
Yeah, I had. That was in December.
Okay.
Is when I had that prayer. This was in September, the following September.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if there are any more key points in between now and what happened in the accident.
Well, yeah. There's another thing that just came to my mind now is when we were already planning to start the mission in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
When I accepted to go to Terre Hill Mennonite High School to teach high school and develop their music program for them.
Okay.
That was a very interesting journey. But one of the things that when we were making the move to go to Colorado to start New Horizons, that was such a stretch of, God, are you really in this? Is this really your calling? I really need to have some evidence.
Yeah.
At the time, we had a car that ran on 2 cylinders of the 4.
Oh.
So our top speed empty was like 40 miles an hour.
Wow.
And so there was a kind of a need for a car. I said, oh, Lord, I got it. Because I spotted this Camry, Toyota Camry, 1987, at the local car dealership where I drove past it to go to the school every morning. And, but it had a price tag of $6,000. And, Lord, I don't think that you can do this, but if there's a way that you provide for that car outside of me creating an awareness, then I will believe and have faith to go to Colorado to make the move. Well, you know the end of that story. We had a reunion of a former choral group that had traveled to Israel and Western Europe on a singing tour. And I don't know how it came out to be, but at the end of that reunion, they had taken an offering among the choral group. And they came and they handed me an envelope and said, this is a gift of appreciation that we want to share with you. Now, how much do you think was in that envelope? It was cash.
I don't know, probably $6,000.
You're exactly right. It was $6,000 to the dollar.
Wow. Wow.
And I almost didn't want to go and buy that car because that meant I was in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You had committed. No backing out now.
So that was what was the strength. But we were only there for 2.5 years.
Okay.
When I was in this head-on collision.
So how did that happen?
Well, I was on a straight road, but I was coming to a curve, but another high-rise 4-wheel drive truck came around that curve and with black ice lost control and came up over to my lane of traffic and came up over the car.
Wow. So he came on head on and he actually went up over on
and
top.
so the dash of the car, because the impact was pushed in back into the seat and trapped my legs. So I was not unconscious during it took Jaws of Life an hour and a half to cut me out of the wreck.
Wow. And you were sitting there conscious.
I was there conscious.
But probably in pain.
Until they actually were able to get the dash off my legs.
So were your legs like crushed or broken?
Yeah.
And...
This femur split lengthwise from the knee to the hip.
Ooh.
This one was broken twice above. I had about I lost a third of my kneecap here. This ankle was crushed. This tibia bone was the only bone that wasn't broken below my waist.
Wow.
They said I had about 125 stitches in my head, but I didn't see that because I was unconscious. I was unconscious in a coma for about 10 days, but they kept me comatose for about 3 weeks. I was in ICU for 7 weeks. I was released from the hospital from therapy 2 years and 3 months after the accident.
So you were unconscious for how long?
Almost 3 weeks.
Wow. That's a long time to be unconscious.
At 6 weeks, they came to, well, let me say this first. After 10 hours in surgery, they finally came out to the waiting room to my wife. We had 3 children, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 6-week-old baby. And she waited for 10 hours for the first word, not knowing. When she got into the helicopter, they just got there as we were ready to lift off, and they said there's not enough time to take. There's not 10 seconds to waste. So they took off. She had 3 hours. It didn't usually take but 2 hours to drive, but because of the road conditions, it took 3 hours to get to the hospital. She sat in that waiting room for 10 hours.
Wow.
Before they came out. And they said, if your husband makes it, he will have a 30% chance of ever sitting up in a chair again of his own ability.
Wow. 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 So you were by yourself in the car?
I was by myself, very fortunately.
So let's dive into what happened during that time in hospital.
Well, I know that because you've asked, I tell this story. Because I made a promise to one of my mentoring kids from grade school days in our county. All I know is that the record says that I flatlined 3 times.
And what does flatline mean?
Your heart's not going. You're not. But then it started again. I was on life support.
Okay.
So I have no idea how this happened or when it happened. I just know that Paul writes in Romans 14 that he knows the man. He doesn't know whether he was in the body or out of the body, but he saw into the next life. That was my exact experience.
So walk us through that. What was the first thing that you remember of that, and walk us through the entire thing?
Well, in that part of the story, I just found I didn't know I was in an accident, and I just found myself in this incredible utopia. I was just like so happy. I mean, the ecstasy, there was not, I knew right away that I couldn't even put words. I'm a teacher, so I like words and meanings and adjectives and like descriptions, and I couldn't find it for what I was feeling. And as I found myself on this path, and I knew right away I didn't have gravity, but my feet were on the ground. You couldn't explain it. And then I looked around and I could see like the leaves on these trees. They were brilliant green, and brown was brown, and the cloud was white, and the sky was blue. I mean, the brilliancy of and what I was feeling was I couldn't put into words.
So there was like no gravity, but you were on the ground. Did you like try jumping or something?
No, well, I was just like hopping, hipping, like I told myself, well, this is like being a jackrabbit. Like we have lots of those in Kansas.
Yeah.
And they're just so freelance, going. That's how it was just like, and I was moving down this path.
Okay.
And then I remember looking forward, and I saw gates, but it didn't register to me what this was about. So I was just again absorbed here, and I don't know why I was so. This is such a distinct. I wanted to put this into words. but there was no, I couldn't find the adjectives. And then I looked down this path. I had maybe gained half the distance of when I saw the gates first. And then I saw those gates starting to open.
What did the gates look like?
And then, I'm not telling you, because I promised myself I will never try to describe what I saw. But then I knew exactly where I was at. And as those gates opened, I found another gear in my transmission. If I had a 4-speed, I was in 5th gear. And the accelerator was all the way to the floor. And I was moving forward. I mean, I sped up.
You sped up.
But then I wasn't looking inside. I was just caught up with what I'm feeling outside here, what the colors, the ecstasy, the happiness, the freedom. And then I looked into this gate. The gates were wide open, and there were people assembling. And I said, there's Irvin Beachy. But I never met Irvin Beachy before. And I looked over here to my little bit of right. I said, that's Victor's sister. Now, Victor was a pastor in Romania who our choral group helped build a church. And why I thought about that's Victor's sister, but I never had the chance. He's gone now. But I never had to ask him.
But somehow you knew who it was.
But I knew who it was. And then I saw their hands become together, and they began to applaud, and they began to say, welcome home, welcome home. It was all in perfect harmony. And I was now getting much closer. When I saw all of their hands go to the side, I saw them turn their faces to their right, my left. I did not see anything inside the gate, but I could tell somebody was speaking. I did not hear because they were acknowledging. Oh, I should have said that when they were applauding and saying, welcome home, it became such a crescendo of sound, and it escalated to the point until they looked to their
And
right.
were you seeing just people or angels?
No,
or
I was seeing people.
People.
And I looked into the eyes of 2 that I named. It wasn't a multitude, but it was a crowd. And then they looked back at me. And they didn't say anything, but there was so much feeling and understanding. And I might have been from here to that doorway, 5 yards away, when the scene lifts and is gone. And I knew when they looked at me that it wasn't my time yet. But when the nurse came in,
So you were back in the hospital?
I was in the hospital. I was in NCU.
So that just like vanished and you were back here?
Yeah.
Did you feel anything of like coming back in your body, or it was just all said and done and back here?
I never felt like I left my body. But when the nurse came in, she saw me crying with the ventilator and the tubes and everything. And so she sat on the bed. She took my hand. And what I remember is she's saying, "Why are you weeping so?" I said, "Please, just turn it off. Let me go to where I was." And I begged her. That's when she took my hand. And she said, "Mr. Miller, I don't think it's your time yet." And then I slipped into unconsciousness.
Wow.
And then my memories started intermittently. 6 weeks after the accident. But the first memory, or the next memory I have, was coming to, and I looked on the windowsill, and there were so many plants and flowers. I mean, there on this shelf there was plants and flowers. On the floor there was plants. Over here was a lavatory. It was all. But then I looked back here, and there was a basket of letters, several hundred letters that had come in those first couple weeks.
Wow.
And I looked at that, and I said, that's what those were the letters that were being read to me. Well, when I was in ICU, my wife would say, there's no conversation, there's nothing you can do. And so she said, just read the mail to him today. I don't remember anybody reading it to me, but when I looked at that basket, and that basket represented people, and then I agreed with the Lord that I'm willing to come back. And that's why I'm here today.
Wow.
And it's very ironic to me that your name is Josh, because it was Josh, the 12-year-old boy, that I met at a homeschool convention, who found out I was a farmer, and he started going with me to the farm in Kansas from Colorado. And when he was 15, we met at a grocery store en route. His mother would bring him, and Glennis came to me and she says, Loren, there's something wrong with Josh. Well, see, the reason there's something wrong is because when he was 13, when my accident happened, they would come every Sunday night. And Josh would spend the week getting his sermon ready to preach to me when I was in ICU.
Wow.
And in that 15-minute window, he would. But when I became conscious, that I began to realize, I don't know how much he did when I was unconscious. I guess I don't even know if he did it. But when I became conscious, I would know that 6 o'clock every Sunday night, the Lamb family was going to be, and Josh was going to have his sermon ready.
Wow.
Because he was dreaming to be a preacher.
Wow.
And now he's 15, and Mama says, Loren, tell him your stories. Well, we had an 8-hour drive to the farm. Fighting sleep, we left at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And so, pre-midnight, I got to tell Josh stories. So I said, Josh, I have a story to tell you that I don't tell to people. And then I told him this story. And then he got all excited. He said, Loren, we've got to travel. I've got a circuit. We'll put you into every Nazarene church in America. They've got to know this. I said, no, Josh, that's not our way. We don't do pedestals. And at the end of the discussion, he made me promise that when somebody asks me, I will share my near-death experience. And so when you ask, I still honor that request.
Wow.
But it's not because who I am, but it was again a demonstration that it is real, God is powerful, there's a plan, and we have this incredible foundation that I see revolving here from our cultural group of people who have a vision and a view to the eternal foundations. And the closer that these things move together, the more our life becomes of bearing fruit. And if this is too far separated, then we only experience what is dry and what is moldy bread and what is cold and gets disenchanted with religion. But as these circles begin to intertwine and move together, we experience life and fruit, and we're ready to move forward and believe in faith.
Yeah. So, Lauren, since that experience, is there anything that has changed in your outlook in life or perspectives or just anything, the way you view things? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I just think that it, whether it was this, and I just shared several experiences, but there's been a lot. But each one of them build on each other to make so that I can't help but believe. Mm-hmm. But faith is faith. And so when God moved us to Thailand, that was way easier to move the family to Thailand than it was to move from Pennsylvania to Colorado. And I think just because you become so enmeshed and desire to please the Father, that what He speaks in that small, quiet voice, you begin to connect dots together, and you see, oh, well, yeah, we couldn't figure this out, but so this has to be where we're to go and what we're to do. And we had no idea about kids being trafficked by the thousands from Thailand when we moved over to Thailand. So I was always enamored with orphanages and at-risk kids and vulnerability, and you began to see it with your own eyes. You walk right into villages, and on your way to church in a village, you see 3 girls that are extremely vulnerable because they're sitting out on the street waiting for that cycle to come and sling them over their back and take them away to eat. And they disappear.
It's horrible.
And so you just, and then you get into this place where you see 25 children in one home sleeping on the living room floor.
Wow.
There's only 2 bedrooms. The parents have the other bedroom. Mom and dad, and they hire a cook. That was all. They invite you to stay for their Saturday evening worship. We were there on a Saturday afternoon. Oh, yeah. And then you hear those children sing and pray and share testimonies. I mean, like, it was such an amazing experience. But then you find out that they've had nothing to eat but rice. My wife says, "You mean 3 times a day?" "Yeah, but we not cook in the kitchen for 2 months. It's not food." "Well, Mom, she knows, go across the road, to ditch. She knows which weed not to have bitter taste. So she makes a weed. She makes curry out of a weed and a different kind of weed for breakfast than for dinner. That's what we eat with rice. So what do you do with that?" I couldn't walk away from it. But now, when you're in 60 homes in 11 countries, 4,515 children that are not being trafficked, because donors care. We don't have money. We're not important. We're not even very smart. But I admit we're in a comma in the sentence. But when people began to link together to make the difference.
So, Lauren, what is something that you would say to someone who maybe finds themselves in a place in life where they are confused, they're trying to find their way, they don't know if God is actually real, or maybe they're trying to figure out what religion is the true religion, they're trying to find their way in life? What is something you would tell them?
Well, my first thought is just take a step. Try faith. But you have to take a step. Mother Teresa said it this way, in a very simplistic way: the road to 1,000 miles is to take the first step. And so that's all that's ever happened for me, is allowing God to intersect us with supernatural manifestations of Himself. And it's just He doesn't give us too much. He just gives us enough to want more. And I've often wished that at 25 years of age, he would have just given me everything. Because I thought I knew everything. I mean, I was really on top of the world at 25 years of age. I'm sorry. At 70, I feel that I don't know much at all. Why? Because in the journey of faith, that's where you find fulfillment. But the greatest fulfillment comes when you see fruit for the labor. And I think it's important to measure by the fruit of labor, not because the word speaks to that. I mean, some days I think about a conversation I might want to have with him is, couldn't we have done it a different way than sacrifice and surrender? And, couldn't we have a little bit of pride in our life? It would have made things feel better. Why humility? Huh? But see, it's about the Lord Jesus. And he wants to manifest himself. But he's using our weak bodies, just us simple people who are willing to believe that he is God and he will show the way. And he will expand that to whatever level we allow him to go. But today I tell people you've got to read the book. If you just read 7 chapters a day and study those 7 chapters, you read the Bible twice a year. That's all it takes, 20 minutes a day. Who can't do that? There's certain things, there's certain disciplines that I have to agree to that, we didn't talk about prayer or fasting. But the way to redemption in relationships and hurts and wounds, pray your heart out. I'd like to think I am so spiritual I can sit on my recliner and I can just pray for. But it's not. I have to get in the car and I drive around our town and I pray over this house or over this business or over this family or over this person that hurt me or misunderstood. And I just pray on them until I love them. And prayer is the way to healing and redemption. So pray, read the word, and then believe God to manifest himself. And you can say that to any culture. And I love when there's the Muslim or the I don't have much intersection. I only had that 15 years ago with Hindu people. But when you have the stories of how Jesus has manifested himself, then that draws them.
Wow. Well, you've covered a lot today. I really don't know what to say, and I don't want to say anything really because I don't want to take away from anything you've said. I feel like your story has so much of what God has done and what he's doing and his power and the way he works and wants to work in our lives. And I trust that this can reach out to many people. And I just feel, even in sitting here listening to you talk, I feel God's Spirit even working in my life and more of a hunger growing and excitement and for wanting more of him and to build his kingdom. And so thank you so much, Loren, for coming on, being willing to sit here and talk about what you're passionate about and what all God has done and what he's doing and what he wants to do. Thank you.